I've been in several meetings with Nikki, and I believe that this leaflet, which some of you may have seen if you're NUT members, which we produced for the Conservative Party conference, which I know Nikki's seen, and she didn't quite reference it directly in her conference speech at the Conservative Party conference, but obliquely. The fact is, workload is at crisis point, and I recognise that Nikki has recognised that. They did launch the workload challenge, but the fact is, insufficient has happened as a result of that. And people will tell you, the wheels of politics grind exceeding slow. But the fact is, there are things which could have been done, which would have made a big difference, which both Nikki and her predecessor turned down. So one of them was, all of this curriculum change in secondary schools, we asked for one additional teacher training day so that colleagues could work on the curriculum together. Rejected. One day. Now I know people will say every day that a child loses in school is a problem, but one day for teachers to do that would have not been too much. And plus, of course, we have just got to tackle Ofsted. Now, there is no Ofsted. We have to have a different system. I noticed today on the Times End, and I don't always read this, but there's a picture of David Cameron on the front, and it says, "Our whole approach is about trusting teachers." Well, I'm sorry, but don't tell that to people who have just had an Ofsted inspection. That is not how teachers feel. They just don't feel like that. And the fact is that unless we get a different approach from Ofsted and on the accountability measures, then teachers will go on having to do these ridiculous numbers of hours. And I can tell you, it's heart-rending to read this. And since last September, not enough has changed to make people want to stay in the profession. And the fact is that we're now under-recruiting into teaching, which must be a big concern for you, Nikki. John Howson's numbers on the recruitment to teaching are way down. I mean, it is a real problem. And if you read the front of this, 90% of teachers said they've considered giving up teaching during the last 2 years because of workload. Now, this is admittedly a self-selecting survey, but it's over 16,000 over one weekend. 87% said they knew at least one or more colleague who had given up in the last 2 years because of workload, and 96% said their workload had a negative consequence for their family or their personal life. And I can remember the first time I met Nikki when she came into office. I said, I have met all manner of young women teachers who say to me, I can't even think about having a family. I can't even have a cat because I've just got no time in my life to do anything except my job. Now, of course, teachers have always worked long hours. Of course, they've always worked way beyond the end of the school day. Of course they have. But there are two things about that. One is that a lot of that was choice. When I first started teaching in 1973, the year after you were born, Nikki, I used to do things at weekends. We used to do Mode 3, we used to do tons of things. You ask a teacher if they had time to do additional things, of course they don't, because they're actually having to spend so long. And I tell you what else is really very serious about Ofsted, and it's this. In those talks, which the teacher unions have had with Nikki, but also with David Laws and also with civil servants, we managed to get Ofsted to produce a list of mythbusters, things that you don't have to do, okay? Some of you might even have seen this in your schools. I can tell you, I have been to schools where the head teachers did not believe that this was true. They thought this was a hoax perpetrated by the NUT because it was saying there are things that you don't have to do. So the fear and the way people feel about Ofsted is so deep-seated that we will never improve teachers' working lives. We will never make it the attractive profession that it ought to be unless we get a radical change to Ofsted. And from the NUT's point of view, that would be abolition of Ofsted and a replacement with a proper, acceptable professional inspectorate system.